Tens of thousands of years ago, Ice Age hunters crossed a land bridge over the Bering Strait that then linked Siberia to Alaska. They slowly made their way south on the North American continent. By 20,000 BC, the nomadic hunters had entered the untamed land of what is now called Mexico. It was a volatile geologic region where volcanoes belched fire and massive earthquakes struck with sudden devastation. Undaunted, they pursued giant herds of bison and deer into the cool grassland of the high plains between the jagged mountains of the Sierra Madre. Near present-day Mexico City, they found a tempered climate around 5 shallow interconnected lakes. By 1500 BC, the hunters were cultivating the valley's rich volcanic soil. They grew crops that still form the basis of the Mexican diet: corn, beans, and chili peppers.
The Valley of Mexico became the cradle of Mexican civilization because of the availability of water. The waters of the lake were used for agricultural purposes. And because of the climate and the availability of water, sometimes you could get 2 and 3 harvests a year, making it possible to support a large urban population. And this formed the basis of the original Mexican civilization.
By 200 BC, just as Rome began its rise to glory, so did the first great empire of ancient Mexico, in the incredible city of Teotihuacan. Called the City of the Gods, Teotihuacan covered 12 square miles in a high valley near present-day Mexico City.
Teotihuacan is a huge city. Estimates for its population run as big as 250,000 people. At the time it was inhabited, it was either the largest city in the world or very close to it. It's huge.
The ancient city was dominated by 2 massive temples, the Pyramid of the Sun on one side and the Pyramid of the Moon on the other. 215 feet high and 700 feet wide at the base, the Pyramid of the Sun was more massive than most of the great pyramids of Egypt. By the 6th century, though, the Teotihuacan Empire, as powerful as it was overrun by hostile tribes from the north, and the city was abandoned. Far to the south, in the Yucatan, another ancient civilization thrived. The Maya, who dominated much of Central America, built stunning cities of stone like Chichen Itza and Palenque. Hieroglyphic writings tell of embattled city-states ruled by priest-kings, of gory religious rituals that included bloodletting, piercing, and human sacrifice, of Mayan rain gods who were placated by tossing victims into a deep well.
Looking at it from our more enlightened point of view today, we might be appalled when we think about what the indigenous people of Mexico would do in the realm of human sacrifice, the burning at the stake, the eating of organs. But that was just part of what the culture was here. Also keep in mind, there were very many highly ritualistic, ugly ceremonies going on in Europe at the hands of the Catholic Church also.
In many ways, the Mayans were more advanced than their European counterparts. Mayan mathematicians understood the concept of the 0 centuries before the Europeans. Ironically, though, these great scientists never discovered the wheel or unlocked the secrets of metals. For all their accomplishments, their tools and weapons never advanced beyond the Stone Age.
The main characteristic of the American development of pre-Hispanic culture starts from the fact that there is no huge animals that are found in America. And therefore, you're not going to develop the wheel because there is nobody to pull the wheel. You're not going to develop the plow because there is nobody to pull the plow.
hundreds of miles north of the Mayan civilization was Tula, capital of a tribe of fierce warriors called the Toltecs. The Toltec god Tezcatlipoca was among the cruelest of all Mexican deities, demanding human hearts as sacrifice.
The Toltecas, which is the name of the inhabitants of Tula, became sort of a sacred name in ancient Mexico. If you were a Tolteca, you were a great person, you were a sage, you were a saint, all that sort of thing.
But by 1200 AD, the mighty Toltecs would be supplanted by a tribe that would go on to build the greatest empire of Mexican antiquity. The Central Valley of Mexico was in chaos at the dawn of the second millennium. The collapse of the Toltec Empire found numerous tribes locked in the fierce struggle for power. Among them, a small nation of Aztecs who were very late arrivals to the valley, migrating south around 1250 AD. Tough and warlike, the Aztecs eventually settled on an island in the midst of Lake Texcoco in the Central Valley. They were guided to the land by an ancient prophecy.
The Aztecs were actually latecomers to the Central Valley of Mexico. According to Mexica or Aztec theology, they were told to build their capital where they found an eagle sitting on a nopal cactus devouring a serpent. And they found this strange combination on that island in the middle of the lake. And of course, that's the symbol that is depicted on the Mexican flag today.
Though seen as primitive nomads by those already in the valley, the Aztecs quickly adapted to their new environment. By 1300 AD, the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan emerged as the greatest city in the New World. Surrounded by a watery moat 3 to 5 miles wide, the city was safe from attack. To overcome a lack of farmland, the Aztecs built ingenious artificial islands called chinampas.
What you do is you take earth from the bottom of the lake and you start putting it on top so to make a sort of artificial island, which you fix by planting large trees as to form a rectangle. Once you are above the level of the water, you have a very stable environment, very humid, and you can grow up to 3 crops a year, and you get a high productivity.
Secure from attack and well provided with food, the Aztecs flourished. By the year 1500, the city had grown to 5 square miles and was home to as many as 200,000. Tenochtitlan was one of the largest cities in the world at the time, 4 times the size of London. At the heart of the city was a towering pyramid, 200 feet high, topped by twin temples, one for the god of the sun and war, the other for the god of rain. Around the temple plaza were the dwellings of the emperor, nobility, and priests. They lived in airy, multi-storied palaces of brightly painted stucco, some with as many as 50 rooms. The power of the Aztec Empire soon spread far beyond the walls of Tenochtitlan. The fierce legions of the Mexica, as the Aztecs called themselves, conquered most of central and southern Mexico. From the southern jungles of the Yucatan to the northern deserts, Aztec influence stretched over 100,000 square miles and controlled up to 15 million people.
By 1428, they owned the Valley of Mexico. And then they start expanding out of the Valley of Mexico. Their first expansion is into the Valley of Morelos, Cuernavaca. They conquered Morelos and Guerrero to the south. They get cotton and they get gold, which is what those produced. Then they go to Veracruz. Then they start going to Oaxaca.